Good afternoon. My name is Jason Rogers, and I'm project manager of the Mount Sinai App Lab. I'm here today to talk about our Hackathon 101 summer workshop on apps, wearables, and wellness devices. Today I'd like to cover some of who we are, what we do, and what makes sense in wearables, connected devices, and apps for the future. Mount Sinai App Lab was created 4 years ago to develop and prove technology solutions, whether they are apps, connected devices, things that improve patient outcomes in this new space. So we build solutions ourselves, and then we partner with experts who can develop evidence that show that those solutions work. That means doing clinical trials in digital health. It means building apps. It means connecting devices and wearables, and being platform and device agnostic to reach the largest number of patients possible. Why do we need apps in this space, and what is our goal here? Well, we want to be able to connect the provider teams to patients when they're outside of the office. 99% of the time, they're not in a clinical setting, so how do we get information from them? How do we connect to them in those times? We can expand their knowledge and understanding of their conditions or diseases. We can give them support to reach out to the community, to build networks that support them as they move forward. We can help them stay on track with reminders for medications or appointments, give them encouragement to promote wellness or good health. And we can gain new insights on our side from the data we collect from those patients, and then act on those insights to improve patient outcomes going forward. When we talk about reaching all patients, we often think about the patients we know have diseases and have those conditions under control. But really, those are only the tip of the iceberg. Under the surface, there are patients that we think are doing well, but when we're not seeing them as clinicians, there's much happening that we don't know, and they may have poor quality of life or actually not be doing particularly well. There are also patients who've fallen out of care. Maybe they haven't seen a provider in some time. And there are patients in the community who are waiting to be diagnosed and treated. How can we reach all of them? How can we expand our capacity to reach and connect to patients all the time? And that's where innovation in apps and wearable devices has really been key. Over the last few years, we've seen the number of health apps surge, over 265,000 now available in the app stores for download. 50 million wearable devices have been shipped globally, and terabytes of new data is being recorded and created each second. But how do providers, how do patients know which apps make sense, which improve clinical outcomes, which are useful in research? It's very challenging, and we're trying to resolve that problem by changing from simply digital health to digital medicine. We're trying to bring the same standards that you have in a community when you consider prescribing medications to prescribing app-based solutions. So think about the evidence-based rigor that's needed to prescribe a medication. We want to do the same thing with digital medicine solutions. And so one of our goals is work with groups to standardize the practices so we can judge trials and projects across multiple facilities. There's new things coming that show us how we can evaluate these interventions, what works and what doesn't. Often it's not just the technology itself that's special, it's that intervention delivery. There's some secret sauce there that prevents even the best well-intentioned projects from succeeding. We've created a product called RX Universe. And what it does is curate the apps that have, and digital medicine solutions that have the evidence behind them that show that they work. Not just solutions we at Mount Sinai App Lab have built, but solutions coming from across the community in digital medicine. And so it's everything from prescribing apps, websites, and wearables to patient engagement and clinical trials. And we've also created a community of collaboration called Node Health that allows us to address the bottlenecks that innovators find, that clinical trialists find, by connecting hospital systems to the public sector, to startups, and patients. I'd like to talk about wearables and connected devices for a bit. This has been an area of huge growth in the last few years, particularly on the consumer side. And with all this data being collected, there's great potential for improving clinical trials and patient outcomes as well. When we talk about this, the real emphasis now has been on really smartphones and wristwatches, the connected watch devices. And smartphones they offer a plethora of sensors that are available to researchers and the clinical care team. This image gives you an idea of some of the things that are available in most new devices today. And consumers, they're interested in this stuff. They care about the Apple Watch, the Fitbit. Most of them say, that it'll put them in more control over their own health. But there are some challenges. Data security is one challenge. Patients may be willing to share their data, but if there's a breach or concern about who's accessing it, they may be less willing to do so. And some of the businesses have been struggling. Some of the businesses have gone under, bankrupt. Others have been sold. There are concerns about adoption continuing. The sales have sort of leveled off here. So how do we go beyond kind of wearables 1.0, where young people and early adopters have been taking these devices on board, and take them into an environment where everyone is using them? As you can see here, there's really high adoption among millennials and to a lesser extent Gen X. But how are we reaching all patients across all age groups, demographics, populations, not just those who are interested in and can afford these devices? And so you can see here the growth kind of leveling off in these devices, even as prices have come significantly down. How do we evaluate different devices and whether the sensor device is a good solution for a particular project? Well, we consider first on a basic level, is it a safe device? And there may be FDA approvals relevant. Is it suitable for what we're trying to accomplish? Does it collect the information that's useful to us in this setting? And then is the information we get, the data we get, reliable? If it's a consumer device that's doing the job of an equivalent clinical device, is the data you get equivalent? Is it trusted? Is it validated? There are some interesting wearable trials going on right now in the specific area of cancer. I've got some information on the screen from Memorial Sloan Kettering, Dana-Farber, and Cedars-Sinai. Each of these projects has to do with tracking patients either to assess suitability for cancer treatment or following them post-diagnosis. In most cases, the focus thus far has been on simple devices like the Fitbit. So we're tracking, in these cases, activity and sleep levels. But how do we go beyond this? There's a lack of consumer clarity on how to best use them when they're viewed as fun devices. How do you take it on to the next level from a medical setting? We think in the future there's going to be more focus on enterprise level or population health solutions in wearables. And we think it's time for wearables to go beyond the wrist and for big data to start to deliver the individualized solutions for individuals and for patients. When we talk about digital medicine, we see some challenges in both the apps and connected device spaces. There are so many apps that are proliferating and many that are succeeding, but they're creating multiple points of interaction for both patients and providers. And that means that the data is also generally being put into different silos where it's disconnected. So you may report very interesting information, a patient may, but that information may not get back to their care team. There's also security, trust, and the challenge of reaching all patients. On the connected device, there's the divide between consumers and clinical grade devices, and also a sense that there's kind of a Me Too strategy. Rather than innovate, many of the device makers are creating carbon copies at a slightly lower price point. So when we think about where digital medicine stands for apps and wearable devices right now, and where we want it to be in 2020, we imagine a joyous user experience, one that's integrated, that doesn't require the clinician to go to multiple websites or a patient to have 6 different apps on their phone. Those things need to play together and work together cohesively. They need to support not just clinical improvement, but also medical research that's ongoing. They need to choose the evidence-backed solutions. We should be going with the apps and the wearables that have evidence behind them. And we should be open to sharing data across different projects. We think we can build a positive feedback loop that really improves outcomes and builds this sector into a more mature and successful development for patients and providers. Thank you for having me here today. It's been nice to join you. My information is on the screen. If you have any questions about the hackathon or the issues that come up in digital medicine from apps and wearables and connected devices, we're happy to do what we call app chats at any time. So please reach out to us, and best of luck at the hackathon. Thanks.